Mick Wadley here, founder of GapFunded.com, and today we're going to go over what is gap funding and why every alternative you've looked at is going to cost you more on a fix and flip. So you found the deal, now you got to close the gap. The numbers work, the ARV is solid, your hard money lender's in, and then you hit that same wall every investor hits. Whether you're a beginner or you're a seasoned investor who's got hundreds of flips under the belt, there's always a gap, somewhere between 50 to 150K you need to show up with. For the down payment, the earnest money, the closing costs, the first draw before your hard money lender is going to give you the money for each stage, and nobody's just handing that to you. So you start looking at your options, and I want to walk through every one of them honestly, because I talk to investors every single day who've already tried all of these, and I want you to understand exactly why they're failing you before I show you what we do instead. So here's the alternatives and why are they failing you. Every investor finds these options, every investor hits the same problems, and here's the honest breakdown. So you got seller finance. It sounds great on paper, and it can be great if you find it. The seller carries part of the price, you skip the bank, gap solved. The problem is the seller. Investors spin on this for weeks, sometimes months. You need someone who owns outright, understands the structure, and accepts less than full asking. That person exists, but it's typically 1 in 20 situations. So you can't build a pipeline on finding them. It's a tool, not a system. Then we got subject to. Taking over the seller's existing mortgage sounds clever until you find the due on sale clause in every conventional loan agreement. If the lender finds out the property changed hands, they can call the entire loan balance due immediately. We've seen this blindside many clients who were never told the risk, and finding a seller in enough distress to agree to a sub to in the first place, that's not a pipeline, that's a once in a while situation. Then we've got equity partners. This is the one that really costs people. The most common deal, a 20% equity share over 4 to 6 months. Annualized, that's 40% per annum APR. And now that partner has opinions on your exit price, on your timeline, on whether to list now or wait. You bought in a check and got a co-manager you didn't hire. On a deal with 80,000 projected profit, a 40% split is 32 grand gone. Across 10 deals, that's going to be 320 grand handed to partners who did none of the work. And then finally, we've got a second position private lender. Here's the one nobody talks about openly. Most hard money lenders explicitly prohibit secondary financing. When they find out, they retract the approval. The deal you thought was funded suddenly isn't. At a 20% annualized with equity participation on top, expensive, unreliable, and it can pull the rug on your primary approval if you're not careful. So let's look at the GapFunded.com mechanism. 5 tools deployed in sequence, no equity split, no seller to convince, no risk of your hard money lender walking. First, we start with debt consolidation. So before anything else, we look at your credit profile. If you're sitting between a 650 and a 720, high interest debt and bloated debt to income ratio or DTI are quietly killing your approvals. We consolidate into one lower payment, freeing up typically $800 to even $1,200 a month in cash flow, dropping your DTI and moving your score fast. This is a step that makes everything else work and run smoothly. Then we move into rapid gap funding. So 20 to 120K deployed in 24 to 72 hours, a fixed rate, no equity split, no early repayment penalty. The day you close, you clear the balance and move to the next deal. Works alongside your existing hard money lender, not against it. Once you're into the deal, we can actually go and do 0% credit stacking. So up to 150K in one run at 0 interest over 12 to 18 months. Across business credit cards applied in the right sequence. These won't report to your personal credit. On a 6-month flip, you carry the capital at 0 cost and repay from proceeds. One client had 120K approved in a single morning, closed 100% his. Let's look at if you have equity in your primary residence or even an investment property, you're open to HELOCs as well. This is almost like a credit card or a line of credit backed by a property you own or the equity in your property. If you own property with equity sitting idle, we turn it into a revolving line. Draw for the gap, close the deal, replenish it, and repeat. Up to 90% LTV, rates far below private money. Typically, we see 8 to 15% on these deals. And for established operators with 2 or more years in business, we can go and look at business lines of credit as well. Your entity's sitting on borrowing power most investors never think to use. We access unsecured lines against that profile and redeploy the capital into your deals. No lien on the property, no equity partner. So let's look at a real life example. We had a client, Kelly. He needed 48K to close a deal in 2 days. The timeline was tight. The gap was real. The deal was solid. He just couldn't get to the table. So what did we do? Here's the sequence in action. Gap funding deployed the same week, enough to close the deal and a little spare. Part of that capital was used to actually pay down credit card debt, freeing up monthly cash flow, dropping his DTI and raising his credit score well into the 700s. And so by the time his project was running, Kelly was already qualified for the 0% credit stacking round, capital lined up and ready for the next opportunity before his deal was even closed. That way he's not in this position where he's tied up in that deal and he has to pass on opportunities that come in the meantime. And that's what the sequence looks like when it's working properly. So if you got a deal, let's close the gap. If you got a deal in front of you and the gap you can't close, book a free funding assessment at GapFunded.com. We'll have a full profile review where we look at your credit, your deal, and your timeline and tell you exactly how much capital you can access. We'll look at which tools apply. We identify which of the 5 tools fits your situation and how fast we can move to get you to the closing table. No risk, no commitment. It's a soft pull only, so no hard credit check. No commitment required. Worst case, you leave with a clear plan and a game plan. So, and the best case is you're at the closing table on a deal with backup capital for the next opportunity. So the link's in the description. Book your free assessment at gapfunded.com. We'll see you in there.